Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Investigators in Cars Drinking Coffee. We're your hosts, Mark and Wendy Mernan, of Complete Legal Investigations in, where are we? Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Yes, there we are. Beautiful day here in South Florida. To our northern friends, we certainly wish you the very best. But here we want to talk today about the difference between real private eyes, the real courts, real life, and television. So what was your favorite court TV show when you were growing up?
Well, I'm aging myself, but I used to watch Perry Mason as a kid.
Who's Perry Mason?
He was a courtroom lawyer, and he had a assistant, they call her paralegal today, named Lois. And
was it Lois? Yeah, okay.
I think it was Lois, and that's when I was 19. That's what made me want to work for attorneys.
Okay,
and
that's
then,
a TV show.
Because I thought I would be in court every day, just like Lois.
Yeah, she was. You're not in court though every day.
I was not in court. I was stuck behind a desk typing all day and answering phones.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore. No.
You're not that anymore.
But it wasn't TV.
It wasn't TV.
It got me in a good career. So.
All right. He also had a legal investigator called Paul Drake.
Oh, he did.
Who worked with Perry Mason. So that's our tie-in. That's how ancient we are.
Maybe Netflix. You can find it. I don't know.
Yeah, you had to really dig Hulu or someplace like that. But anyway, we're talking about real life versus court time, and so what has been our experience in television court versus real court?
Well, you've had a lot of good experiences. What would you say was the
shiny moment?
The outstanding moment?
When a client poured a jar of water over his attorney's head in federal court.
Oh my gosh!
And the marshals tased the guy. He went down like a pancake.
Didn't really happen.
It did really happen.
Oh my God!
Really happened here. The attorney was wonderful. He had so much composure.
In his suit?
Was wearing a suit. He was making arguments, and this guy had been in trouble all afternoon, and he just picked up he was on some kind of terrible drug charge or whatever, gun charge, and he picked up a pitcher of water and poured it over the attorney's head.
Oh my God.
And the marshals were kind of tuned to it.
Yeah.
And I was sitting I was actually on the witness stand, and the marshal standing next to me, the courtroom marshal, deployed his taser and just zapped the guy, and the bam, down like a pancake, confetti everywhere.
That is like TV.
Like TV. We're all kind of stunned, you know.
Wow.
But the attorney, bless his heart, a good friend of ours, handled it with such composure, such professionalism. I think everybody in the courtroom was in awe. But that got to be
that didn't help the guy's case.
No, probably did not.
Was that in front of a jury?
That was in front of a jury. Yeah.
Oh my.
But that was just, like I said, most of the time it's nowhere near as dramatic.
No.
And you and I have discussed this. Trials are one word. How would you describe them? Usual trial.
Pretty dry and boring.
They're dull.
If you go down there and you want to watch a trial, especially civil trials, you know, I have a hard time staying awake at times when they start reading transcripts.
Arguing, you know, obscure points of law.
Yeah.
Important to the attorneys, important to the case. We don't want to minimize that. But as a spectator, dull.
Yes. For the most part.
For the most part.
Yes.
And yet we rely on citizens to be a part of a jury process to make sure everybody gets their day in court. So, so if you really like jury trials, then you probably might consider law school.
Yes.
Neither of us went to law school. We spared ourselves that, but we work for really good lawyers, so they like court and they're very good at it.
Right.
But for the average spectator, the other thing about court is things take so much longer. It's like Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Yes.
They get a house. They get do a whole remodel in an hour.
Yeah, we wish.
Yeah, we wish. Facing remodels could take weeks. But and court cases typically take very, very long.
Yes. It takes a long time to get to court, to get your case heard, and then it takes a long time while you're there. And then there's delay after delay after delay. Witnesses don't show up, so it can be very frustrating. It requires a lot of patience.
It really does require a lot of patience, and court can be a hot mess. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And the judges are very inclined to provide for continuances to make sure that everything's absolutely fair, and that can lead to a lot of frustration for plaintiffs, for defendants, for witnesses, members of the litigation. It can be frustrating for everybody.
Yes.
So.
I don't envy judges.
No, I don't envy judges. I don't envy being in court.
Yeah.
But we have noticed that, and we've both had issues where we've both experienced the legal system ourselves.
Yes.
Personally, on a personal basis, and it can be very frustrating.
Very. Justice is not always served. Eventually, it usually is, but it feels like when you're trying to get to justice, it's not happening. So, and it's not always fair.
Right.
What the outcomes are not always fair. I've talked to people, and they say that, but eventually, usually, the justice system does work,
Right.
and you do get your justice.
But nobody wins.
No.
Yeah, and no matter what anybody said, there are no winners in court.
It's nerve-wracking.
It's nerve-wracking. It's disappointing. Nobody gets exactly what they want.
No.
Nobody gets the justice they think that they
Right.
deserve.
Right.
There's a lot of compromise just to keep the system going. But
Right.
it is far better than countries that don't have due process, countries where you can just get thrown in jail for any reason. And we are not in that position here, thankfully. No matter what the pundits or the commentators might say, we do live in probably the best system in the country, the best system in the world.
So now, what about testifying in court? Once in a while, we have to testify. Usually, you.
Okay.
What is that experience like?
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I don't want to do it.
You have your attorney.
Why is it nerve-wracking?
Well, because you're being challenged. You're being challenged. You're trying to be professional. As an investigator, I find the facts. I don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak. But the attorney who has retained us will usually ask me questions, and then opposing counsel will have the opportunity to challenge.
And what is the opposing counsel trying to do to you?
Well, they're trying to shake my credibility, throw cast.
They call it impeachment.
They're trying to impeach my testimony.
Make you look like an idiot, basically.
Well, that's not that hard.
Please.
It's not that big. It's not that challenging to make you look like an idiot.
Yeah.
But to be professional, to respond appropriately, and not to get shaken by people who are trained by professionals who are trained to argue.
Yeah, trained to argue.
Yeah, so we're not always off the hook in that regard.
No.
But always enjoy the challenge of it. I can't say you always look forward to testifying. You look forward to being done testifying.
Yes.
But you realize there's a lot at stake to try to be prepared. But again, we were very fortunate to work for a lot of good lawyers and who are very gracious, very professional. I think that's the thing I come with, particularly in state court. Federal court it can be, but state court is probably because of the volume of cases. There's probably a lot more parity. There's a lot more. I feel
drama?
There's more. No, I think there's probably more drama in federal court.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you don't know what all everybody's coming up with.
Oh, okay.
So a little more hostile, I think, in federal court. State court, I felt a lot more because they work with each other so frequently. They're not so personally invested.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
But just different environments. We work in both of them, so that's our idea about that.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, but next time you watch a special or Law and Order or a rerun of Law and Order, nothing takes an hour.
No.
Even a deposition doesn't take an hour.
No, and when you get on jury duty, please don't tell the judge you've watched Law and Order. I had that happen. Not me, but another one. The judge is like, okay. That qualifies you.
So anyway, we just thought we'd share some of our court time versus real time experiences with you, and we'll see you in the next episode of Investigators in Cars Drinking Coffee. If you like what you see here, please hit the subscribe button down below, and we're trying to get these out to you once a week with some insight that we share as professional investigators, husbands and wife working together, and enjoy this time with you. Make it a great day. Take care.
Bye-bye.